Welcome back to Organizational Development / Design Diversity Skills. This week I would like to talk about one of our more troubling conflicts in the world today, labor management. I'm actually taping this lecture to you as my union prepares for a 23-day countdown before they plan to strike. So I live this conflict intimately. My grandfather was a union steward and he worked in a factory, and I am so grateful for his courage, his conviction, because if you have taken labor law, and Jim Ellman, our faculty, our long-term faculty who worked with labor management, NCRP for, I'm not sure if it was the city or the county of Los Angeles, he does a wonderful job of introducing you to the history of unions, the atrocious working conditions that working class people experienced in this country and throughout the West in the beginnings of, the Industrial Revolution and beyond. What you see in sweatshops in various parts of the world today are exactly what these unions fought to change, and they did so incredibly. And at the same time, I feel very mixed and ambivalent about what's going on in the world today. And let me start by talking about NCRP with labor management conflict. Now, you will be reading one of my co-authored chapters in your reader. And my colleague was a longtime lawyer negotiator for the longshoremen union. I've never worked with longshoremen, so I really don't know their unions well, but he worked with them as their negotiator, advocate at the collective bargaining table for a career before becoming a faculty of business at Pepperdine, which is one of Southern California's respected private religious schools here. He currently teaches in the MBA program at Pepperdine, and what a wonderful colleague to co-author this chapter with. Now, my work is a little different than his. I have mainly worked in the public sector. I have worked with many different unions, union members, and management, administrators at all levels of government. City, county, state, federal. If you're interested, you can go to my Vita, which is part of the NCRP webpage, so you can see details of who I've worked with. That has included being asked by Los Angeles unions, once again, public sector, to come in and help with interest analysis in preparation for collective bargaining. And this was a beautiful setup, and it's confidential, so I can't give you that many details, but I was working together with managers as well as the staff union members to lay the groundwork for integrative bargaining in this particular public agency. Much too rare. That is what I'll say to begin. There is so much untapped potential for NCRP to be used, and it is critically important that it be introduced and at least piloted now, as particularly public unions are being scapegoated with the financial crises that the U.S. has been facing in recent years, because frankly, we need to preserve the best of what unions are all about and spread the best of what they're all about, because we still have too many horrendous, what in my mind, grossly illegal sweatshops around the world. That is fueling all of the cheap goods that we buy in this country, and awareness needs to be risen so that people get some basic humane treatment around the world. That said, NCRP is very much intertwined with labor management relations if we focus on arbitration. And some of you will study arbitration in alternative dispute resolution. Maybe some of you have had experience with arbitration. Arbitration is a quasi-legal process where the parties agree to their judge, their decision maker, and normally it's an industry expert. And so union and management are selecting from labor experts with labor management NCRP. Arbitration is the way, for those of you who are members of unions, you're well aware of the grievance process. Whenever a rule agreed to in collective bargaining, in the collective bargaining agreement contract, is perceived as being broken, union members have the option of filing grievances, and they go through an internal organizational administrative law process, hiring that arbitrator to make a decision about whether the rule has been broken and what needs to happen. It's very, much the heart of labor management relations today. It's adversarial, and it is ruled by whatever contract has been agreed to. You don't see a lot of mediation. You don't see a lot of other creative ways. And with collective bargaining in particular, you don't see integrative bargaining. You see the distributive dance. You see, money being the focus, getting a higher pay raise. Let me talk about my own union. I just complimented the leadership today that they have finally included providing quality, affordable public education to students as a concern, in addition to getting a pay increase, benefits increase. I believe we have dropped the ball with doing what we need to do to ensure that we are providing the public service that we are mandated to provide. And I'm doing what I can as a union member to say to my leaders, I want us to do more. It's not okay to just rally together every couple of years and ask for more of the pie, more money. We must also share our other interests. Now, I've been asking why I'm not seeing this over the years that I've been a member of the union, and I get different answers. Now, if you know the history of unions, you know that management and their egregious, think a corporation, one who has recently, the Japanese corporation's a good example, with the airbags in the United States that have been found so defective for so long, such widespread abuse, and allegedly this company knew that there's this defect and some people would die, and they were willing to sacrifice people for the sake of profit. Now, they're not alone. I could come up with many American companies, tire defects, other defects, where money and profit are the only focus and people are sacrificed. So, the history says that unions needs to stay vigilant and strong to ensure that people are protected. But what I hear about lack of integrative bargaining is that management, as it's not concerned about people, but wants to focus on just dividing the profit and pie, has resisted integrative negotiation. Maybe they think it's going to weaken their negotiation power. I don't know. I haven't done research on this. But I will say that with the recent scapegoating of public unions, and one of our students just did an incredible piece. Some of you are union people. You are employed by unions. You've advocated for them for a lifetime. Others of you are management. So you've lived this intimately over the year. Not okay to be scapegoating for very complex conflicts. But unfortunately, for those of you who intimately understand unions, and my mother and her family are from Chicago, with quite the reputation for corruption, involvement with organized crime, mafia, unions have that history of corruption and power abuse. So they have reasons that they can be scapegoated. And we need to recognize the whole picture if we're going to be part of the change that is needed, the leadership. Now, what you will see in my chapter, co-authored with Charles Hunt, are a lot of my ideas and some of my experience. Now, I would love to have more of you actively involved with management in unions. Test my ideas and tell me how it goes. Share your real-world case study experience. I have asked my students who are employed by unions over the year, some of the, I've challenged them actually with some of my greatest concerns. For example, the poor quality of public schools and how unions have gained a reputation for protecting the worst of teachers, the worst of union members, rather than prioritizing public service. What they tell me is that management often does not do its job. And I would submit management would benefit from becoming skillful mediators, from learning how to do NCRP, so that they feel more empowered to start to tackle some of the real problems and concerns very early on. They actually need some education, almost quasi-legal education, because lawyers know very well how to do thorough documentation of problem behaviors in order to ensure that they're rectified. That is what they need to do. Other students have told me who have embraced ADR with unions and management that it is so ugly, so contentious that they have simply burnt out. Can you believe? And if you are working in an organization that has a lot of legal concerns, a lot of conflict, a big organization, you have legal counsel, a legal department, human resources, and full-time internal mediators, investigators, and oftentimes ethically, legally, they are not allowed to talk to each other because their roles are distinct. This is how complicated, messy it's gotten. I submit with your reader that if you infuse these organizations with NCRP, or hire some of these people who are skilled at NCRP, you can truly start to transform and reduce this ugly, contentious, nasty environment. We must all somehow figure out ways to work together when we face such challenges. And at this point in time, I will say I see a lack of empowered, skillful leadership, all sides, everywhere I look. I do not see healthy organizations, productive. Instead, I see, and I'll close on this, in California and throughout the West, we have a nonprofit to provide health care called Kaiser Permanente. I've actually had some of their full-time mediators, conflict employees, as students in our program. Do you know they actually have full-time programs, work support groups for employees in hostile work environments? This is so widespread that they have a constant flow of employees learning how to protect themselves from the most brutal situations. And so we are the change, the answer, the hope with what we do in NCRP. And I look forward to hearing your experiences and thoughts. Have a great week.